Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Hollywood Matt Connolly with the double biceps. It is in the contract a legal requirement every single time we appear on camera. Welcome to the AWE podcast. The co-host, co-founder, co-breather of air, co-wearer of clothes in this very room. It is, in fact, the King of Sting, the Master of Disaster, the Count of Monte Cristo, Thunderlips, the ultimate male. It is, in fact, the winner of the Dave Stockbridge of the Year award. And there it is there, the illustrious trophy held by the illustrious man with the illustrious beard. And this is the amazing man himself. It is Dave Stockbridge. Stockbridge, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for that very, very warm welcome. As always, Hollywood Matt Connolly. We have ourselves a very special guest today. Ladies and gentlemen, you may know this young man as being the AWE Junior Champion. He is Hamza the Hammer Hodzic. Well, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolute pleasure, mate. We've been waiting for this opportunity to talk to you a little bit more. Sorry, as my sound just kind of cut in and out there a little bit. So, mate, how's it felt carrying around the belt over the shoulder over recent months?
It's awesome. It's a good reminder of my hard work paying off. And it's good motivation for my next upcoming matches.
Straight into the upcoming matches, obviously occupying a lot of your mind space at the moment, AWE 2. How's your preparation going?
Preparation could be better. I got an injury on my wrist, which halted some wrist training for a bit. It's gotten better. I found exercises that I could do that didn't hurt as much. And so I've been training well, going heavy on the bicep lifts, and I'm ready.
Beautiful. And how did you injure your wrist there?
So in preparation for my match at AWE 1, I was doing wrist curls off of the bench press thingy.
Oh, yeah.
So like that.
Yeah.
And I felt like some cracking going on behind my wrist.
That's not good.
That's always a good
painful
sound.
Yeah.
If you're cracking, you know it's right.
Yeah.
So you sustained that injury before AWE 1 and still dominated in that performance. I mean, I think for a lot of people, especially people in Queensland, they were somewhat surprised as to how dominant you were in that matchup. In reflection, did it all feel as easy as it looked?
It did, and that's because in the lead up to the match when I injured it, I was actually worried that he'd top roll me because my wrist was weaker. But instead, he went for a press all 3 rounds, which didn't really attack much of my wrist. So, I was just able to go full bicep backwards, take his hand.
So, if only you knew a little bit before, it might have made all the difference. But you were strong enough to work your way through it.
Right.
I think that's not you. I think it's my little microphone here. So, mate.
That's Jamie Barrett was the opponent from the AWE number 1 who had just come off a successful tour in the United States and he had a lot of hype behind him. And this was touted as, we wanted to set this up because he was touted as the number 1 junior in Australia. And we thought, well, who better to challenge him than yourself? And there was some doubters coming out of the Ryan Bowen household,
namely Ryan Bowen.
That's right.
There were some misplaced bets made, and
that's right. But I wasn't sure how it was going. I'd never gripped up with Jamie. And, seeing him do so well over in the United States, it was like, wow, this is going to be a really big test for you. But you came through with flying colours. It was, it was 3-0 win at AWE 1, and you looked dominant the whole way through as well. So, were you game planning very specifically? I know Jamie's very explosive from the start. Was there anything that you was concerned about in that matchup?
Yeah, I was worried about his setups because I was watching like old footage and he has a lot of like shoulder commitment that the referees don't care about really. Tim did good reffing that day, made the match even. And so I did lots of preparation at the club with some of the guys there. They helped me with like some ready-go setups, how I should hold my hand to try and prevent him from getting in a press or any supination. And it worked well.
Yeah. What was it specifically that you had to get your hand in a certain spot, or it was because he's obviously in a press, he's trying to supinate his hand and press through with his body.
Yeah.
And you were sort of kicking back, were you? Or?
Yeah, I had some kickback, a lot of back pressure, and I hit him off center instantly. I didn't like try holding him in a defensive top roll. I hit him straight away so he couldn't get any shoulder commitment.
Nice. Yeah. And it went like all three sort of went straight through, didn't they? I mean, we did get straps one of the rounds, and but it didn't seem to make any difference. It was a very dominant performance, and you walked away as the new AWE Junior Champion with your belt there. We can see that on the table, and one of the exciting things, and one of the things that we've been pushing with the AWE is that you will be able to keep that belt for forever. That is yours, and you'll be defending the title at AWE 2, and you might win a second belt. So depending on how many times you defend the title, well, with the junior thing, you'll have a restriction of age because it's 21 and under. So at some point you will age out, but you may walk away with like 30 belts.
And mate, and now after AWE 1, are you somewhat more excited about the possibilities that perhaps arm wrestling holds as a professional endeavour? Is it something that you can see yourself doing in the years to come at a higher standard?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal. Hopefully, AWE takes the next step that so far arm wrestling hasn't been able to explode the sport into the mainstream media, and it could be a profession for many more people.
Yeah, and so what got you into the sport to begin with?
So I was on YouTube one night. It's like 3:00 in the morning, and I was
sounds like a
saw-
familiar
School
tale.
School night, was it?
Should have been doing.
Yeah. And I was just scrolling through YouTube, and I saw like a highlight video of Devin Larratt in his WAL, and I thought it was like really cool. Usually whenever I have like these motivational nights, I forget the next day, but arm wrestling stuck with me.
Yeah.
And a few days later, I kept talking about it to my parents, and my dad was like, all right, let's go like make a table. So we made like a bench arm wrestling table. We set up a pulley system and like a terrible like cylinder handle that I would use, and I constantly like cut myself against the metal.
Craftsmanship.
They're just saying, no, it'll make you tougher. Don't worry about it. It's all part of it.
So that's when I first started training. A couple months before I joined the club.
You started training beforehand. Is that why it was?
So mum and dad were really supportive from the get-go.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so you're training at home. Who was the first person you really gripped up with that wasn't in your own family?
So I hadn't really done much arm wrestling at school, but obviously I wanted to as soon as I got back to school because I think we were on holidays. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was pretty easy because I was like watching technique videos and stuff like that, doing some training. And yeah, it was awesome.
So you started dominating in the classroom?
Yeah, I started at the classroom, and then I challenged some of my uncles. They'd still beat me.
Yeah.
Even though I like knew everything because they're just too strong. But, yeah.
Does that still happen?
They didn't want to challenge me anymore.
Hamza's uncle, hello to
Hamza's
you.
uncle, yes. Hamza's uncle is a fixture at every one of Hamza's events, and has been a long, even in this very room. Previously, and is a very passionate supporter, not just of you, but of arm wrestling, I feel, as well. So, mate, so you were king of the family, beating everybody in the family. When was the first time that you kind of stepped into a club?
So I was training with that handle weirdly for about like a month, maybe a month and a half, and
just getting cuts and abrasions.
Yeah, and eventually I thought enough was enough, and then my mom like offered. It shocked me because the whole time it was like thought of like as a joke, arm wrestling.
Yeah.
And then I found out it was actually like a club.
Yeah.
But I looked at the Kilburn Community Centre on Google, and it said it was permanently closed. And I was so confused. I was like, so is there a club or not?
Arm wrestling Sunday nights permanently closed.
Yeah. They need to update their hours for that.
Yeah. So, but you braved it and went along anyway, just in case. Just made mum drive you regardless.
Yeah, because I was
let's
looking
just go, mum. Somebody's got to be there.
Yeah, I was looking at Matt's videos, and they were like pretty recent. So there was no update to the website where it was like, oh, we've moved or anything. So I decided to come anyway, see what happens, and I found the club.
Yeah, well, and do you remember that first night in the training room?
Yeah, I remember it actually very well. I started like warming up with Matt. And then Lass came along, and he was.
Oh, there you go.
That was it.
It got really hot in the room. I was sweating a lot, and I remember he was doing this thing, training my wrist. He was telling me to just hold on, and he would like do like weird hand movements.
Nothing to do with arm wrestling.
No. There was no table involved.
You're talking about Laz the Berserker Bolter, who's also on the card at AWE 2 and featured on AWE 1. So he's looking to continue his winning streak. I think against Rhett Downward from memory.
That's right.
So a big matchup down further down the card. But you very very quickly found yourself adept at the table, and of course I guess whenever you pick up a sport and you're just naturally good at it, it's really encouraging. Did you feel like you were good at it from the get-go?
I'm not sure because I was really weak when I first started, and I guess the guys at the club were telling me you feel like a lot stronger than last week.
Yeah.
So I just kept going to see what happens, and I started beating some of the weaker guys at the club.
Like me.
And yeah,
You can say yes. But it is
Very
true.
politely not answering that.
Yeah, I like that. But I think that you showed great potential, and it did genuinely feel like you were getting stronger by the week. I think you were growing an inch and putting on 5 kilos by the week at one stage, and every time we returned to the training room, you were just at a whole new level until there was maybe a month there where I might have been competitive with you, and then you just busted all the way through, and then all of a sudden Matt's struggling to hold on to you, and you're finding yourself in the top echelon of those athletes within the club. And of course, you would have been looking forward to competing at nationals and proving yourself to be the top junior at the country in the country, but that didn't transpire in this case.
Yeah, I was hoping to compete at nationals, but they had it at a casino or something like that. Yeah. And I was, I think, 17 at the time. And yeah, they didn't allow me in. So
you couldn't get the fake ID in time.
Yeah. No. And so AWE 1 rolled around and really was, I mean, one of the great things about AWE 1 and a lot of those events that have kind of come out of COVID is that they were answering questions about, where do people sit in the world, or where do they sit in the region? Like what's the new rankings? Because for about 2 or 3 years there, nobody really knew. And I guess that's the question was, there was a lot of hype around Jamie Barrett, and a lot of people were just assuming that he was the top junior in the country, and there was a lot of noise about that, and yet you were just quietly there training in the background with your equipment bleeding,
splintery,
picking out splinters, and you're working away in the background. And so AWE 1 very much answered that question about who is the number one junior in the country and amongst the top juniors in the world. And so AWE 2 rolls around and somebody else has held up their hand, and you've got a new opponent. And what do you know about your opponent on this occasion?
I know that he's a top roller. I think he's mostly low hand. He's got an explosive hit off the start. He looks pretty strong. There's only old footage of him having matches. The only recent one that I've seen was almost a year ago versus Sam Burnett, where he lost, I think it was 4-1 or 3-1.
Mm-hmm. Ethan Tunstall.
That's right.
Yep.
Ethan Tunstall.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm going into this match pretty confident. He hasn't been competing much, so I don't know. I guess maybe if he felt he was strong enough, he would compete more. I'm not sure what the situation is, but.
And what are your measurements right now? How tall are you now? Are you taller than at AWE 1?
Are you taller than when we started the podcast?
I haven't measured by height or anything for a very long time. I got it measured at the doctor's maybe 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and it was 192.
Right.
192, 193, something around there.
And you've certainly grown since then.
Yeah, maybe about a centimetre or two since then.
Yeah, okay. So, and how much are you weighing in at?
My weight's been fluctuating a lot. I have good and bad days with my eating. I'm sitting around 82, 83.
And what's a good day look like when eating
barbecue.
Well? Just barbecue?
Yeah,
barbecue. What does a bad day look like? Just barbecue.
But less of it.
Yeah.
Anytime there's meat, it's a happy day.
It's a good day. And we're broadcasting this podcast, or recording this podcast very shortly after an interview that you've just had with the News Limited media with respect to AWE 2 and your position as the top junior in the country. And of course they were firing out some questions to you about how essentially, as we've just discussed, how it is that you got into the sport, and you were explaining to them that you now feel like more than ever that arm wrestling is a pathway and genuinely an alternative for kids that might have otherwise gone into martial arts or MMA or boxing or something of that nature. That arm wrestling very much is an alternative that younger generations should really be considering.
Yeah, arm wrestling. I forgot what I was going to say.
That's okay. You were excited about arm wrestling as a junior, as a potential that you could make a career out of it.
Yeah.
Yes, you were excited.
I can tell.
Okay,
I can see the excitement now.
it came back to me. I've seen a lot of the top guys talking about how they were able to make a living, and not just a living, but live life happily, easily, based off the money that arm wrestling has made them, which it's good because arm wrestling still isn't obviously as big as it could be. That's what I think AWE here is trying to do. They're trying to make arm wrestling as mainstream as possible, and I think after that explosion, it could make more money for not just the top guys, but guys that are climbing up the ranks, maybe depending on how good they are at social media and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's right.
That's really interesting that you make that observation about being good at social media, because we see that all of the big names in the sport are those people that have now become household names: Monster Michael Todd, Ryan Blue Bowen, that ilk of athlete. They're well known, but they're like you said, Devon Larratt is about the sport because of what you saw on social media, and people know of these athletes because of what they've seen on social media. It's almost like arm wrestling does not exist much outside of that world. So to be really good at that world is really that pathway to becoming a professional in the sport, it seems, now more than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're going to get the opportunities that others won't, because you've got a built-in audience and people know you and people want to challenge you and they see you and they recognize you. Thinking of the Whisperer, the biker, for an example, the amount of opportunities that he's had since creating content, and it's literally him on a table versing just random people. And whispering to them.
And it's also the way that the outside world gets to find out about us. I mean, I was talking about what we're doing with AWE too, with just a random person the other day, and the normal first reaction of, oh, arm wrestling, is that actually a thing? Didn't come up because he said, oh yeah, I've been watching this Whisperer.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and it's like, and he said, yeah, and he just talks to people. I said, oh, yeah, you're really strong. It's like, yeah, and he said, yeah, I love it. I just see all the videos pop up. I said, do you see anybody else? And he was like, oh, no, I don't think so. But, that's now his connection to the sport. And it's those connections that over time exponentially grow and the sport becomes mainstream.
Exactly right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, some of the guys at my school, they were showing me like arm wrestlers on TikTok that they would see. Like I was arm wrestling and they would show me, they'd be like, oh, do you think you could beat this guy? And they show me like a video of Levan. I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Like, yes, definitely. Bring him to me.
I'll challenge him now.
Yeah.
He was in a movie. He's in a Chris Hemsworth movie at the moment, Levan.
Yeah, Extraction 2. I was watching that with my mum and I fell asleep. I was too tired, but I might give it a rewatch.
Let's not tell Levan that. He might get upset.
Yeah. Did you get to see Levan scene?
Yeah, I saw him at the beginning of the movie. It was like a security guard or something like that at the beginning. Yeah, but I saw it on Ryan Bowen's channel. He has more of a appearance on the movie later on.
Yeah, that's the only bit I've seen. I haven't seen the rest of the movie, but yes, Levan. I think he was the bad guy, and if you're going to cast him as anything, it's like, well, we need to give you a machine gun because that's all we're going to do here. You're not going to be playing the romantic lead in here with Chris Hemsworth in the movie. So
Levan just missed out in that lead role.
Yeah, that's right.
Just missed
it
out.
was Crystal Levan. It was like, maybe arm wrestle for it. No, wait.
So what do you? How do you feel like AWE2 is going to go for you on this occasion?
I think I'll be in and out clean 4-0. First of 4, right? Might even be 5-0.
4,
yeah.
5-0. Yeah, you're getting double points somehow.
Do a double pin or something like that. I don't know. And looking forward to the after pulls as well. I know Todd Hutchings isn't really known for after pulling. He just comes in and competes and leaves. But if I could get to pull him, that'd be awesome.
I think he will. He's got the day. He's staying in the hotel, same hotel you guys as well. The guys coming from interstate and internationally will be. I would hope that he would be keen to meet his fans that have come.
I'd say we'd try and twist his arm, but I don't think we could.
No, that's right.
Just come through with side pressure.
If 8 of us jump on him at once.
And it is one of the great things about arm wrestling is that everybody does after pull typically, and gets that opportunity to kind of grip up with athletes they mightn't otherwise have that chance to.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. That's one of the exciting things about the sport is that, you can have a match with somebody and then 2 minutes later, they're telling you how they beat you or you're telling them how you beat them. And then it's like, no, don't let me get that position. See how you're letting me do that? Like, don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
you're teaching them how to beat you, but it's like it's getting them better, and then they're going to be showing you, hopefully, stuff that's going to get you better as well, and so everyone gets better overall. It's just amazing. It's no other sport that I've seen where that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And so do you have any tips for young people that might have just scrolled across the Devon Larratt video and might now be arm wrestling curious? Like, what tips have you got for people that want to get involved?
Stay
in
out of
sport?
my way.
I'd say most important thing would be finding a club near you. If there's no clubs, I know I've got a couple guys that I've met online through coincidence, and they like watch like he's from Italy and he watches like Hermes and stuff, but he doesn't live anywhere close to a club, so he does like grip stuff and training like that. If you don't have a club, you can do some arm wrestling lifts at home. Just get a karate belt and you can do most of your lifts with just that.
Start a club. If you don't have a club in your area, start one.
Yeah.
Just put a thing up on Facebook and say, this is the local arm wrestling club wherever you live, and even if one other person turns up, you got somebody to arm wrestle.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then get somebody else and you got three, and then just builds from that. It's exactly how we did it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you need a table, just Hamza's dad will knock one up for you. So
Just wear gloves while you're doing it. But the resources are available for people to do it. And I love the fact that people are keen and they want to get things happening. I just think sometimes people need to take some initiative, and it's like, if it's like, oh yeah, I'd love to do it, but there's no one around me that does it. It's like, if you know anybody, then they have arms, you can arm wrestle them.
Yeah, that's right.
Just like you said, you couldn't wait to get back to school. Then there's 100 kids you could in your year maybe that you could jump on with the table or even at the desk and be like, hey, let's see. I don't know what I'm doing, but let me just mess around and play around here, and away you go. So
And it's even if you both don't know, like if you're both new and you don't know any technique, there's plenty of YouTube videos that explain every technique pretty in good detail, and you can just like sit there with whoever you're with and just practice those techniques. Yeah, you don't need a coach or anything.
That's right.
What are a few of those YouTube channels that you've been following to pick up some hints and tips?
I think it was recently I saw one called I think Arm Wrestling Monkeys.
Okay.
Yeah, so they've got they're doing like a series of different techniques and like the arm wrestling triad, I think it's called. And then they go through like every different one of the techniques, like sweeping top roll, high hook, and posting top roll, stuff like that. And yeah, I think they go into good detail of everything that you can possibly do in arm wrestling.
Wow. The King's flop.
They've got everything.
and so, I mean, I guess now you're emerging as one of those athletes on the world stage, but who are some of those athletes that have served as inspiration for you?
So Devon was the first inspiration, and then once I started looking outside of that, I started looking at some other juniors around the world that are also as hungry for victory as I am to like climb those ranks. I saw this guy Rino Masic from Croatia. He won 4 gold medals at WAF recently. He won the youth 90 plus kilos left and right, and the seniors I think 100 kilos left and right.
Jeez.
So yeah, he's really good, and he was going to go against Bacho Saganashvili. Which is another junior at East West West, but they Bacho like pulled out because he wanted to pull out WAF.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been keeping my eye on Reno. He's an awesome guy. He's got some good training videos as well. I implemented a lot of his stuff from his training into mine, and yeah, I feel like it's working very well.
What style does he implement?
So he's like very straightforward with his training. He doesn't do any like crazy handles or anything like that. He uses the karate belt and he uses just a normal spinning handle with a thick grip. He does. I think he's more of a presser. He's realized that he's good at pressing. He's pressed a lot of people through the WAF, but he's also got a strong top roll. Yeah, he's got very strong back pressure. I think he's like 70 kilos of just pure back pressure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have an ambition to compete in WAF yourself, or?
Yeah, that was the goal for this year. I wanted to actually go. I think it's in August, but we don't have possibility to do that right now. So maybe another time next year.
Yeah, very, very cool. And so have you got some names that you're likely to call out if indeed you do happen to walk away with the title over you or the belt over your shoulder as you believe you will?
I've been thinking about maybe if I could get some good preparation in, I could go in against Jordan Davis. He's not training very much, but I think if he started training...
Now's the time to get him.
Yeah, it's literally a good time. Jonas Davis would be an awesome match. Yeah.
Get him now because he hasn't trained for like a year. Yeah, absolutely. That would be a good match. You're both very tall and
Yeah.
Similar frames. It's an interesting matchup.
same first name. No, not at all. I like the blank look that both of you gave me. That was great. Yeah, but what about for the juniors? Anybody else that would be, say, if you did defend the juniors championship again, AWE2? Is there any other juniors in the country or anyone around the world even that's under 21? You've mentioned the other bloke before. He's a junior still.
I think he turned 18 this year, a bit before me.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's very strong for his age. We've also got a Chris Stapps from Latvia, 75 kilos. He won at WAF Worlds Youth. He's a strong guy, and also Ricard Bornman. I know they're saying he's out of my league. If he gets swept by Mario, and it turns out that he's not as strong as people thought, maybe it could be a match.
Yeah.
If it's anything close with Mario, then definitely not.
And because you have gripped up with Mario, and how did that feel?
Yeah, that was at Garage Wars 2.0.
Oh, it's probably a year ago now.
Yeah, it was
almost
a long time ago. But yeah, I had absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
He was just holding me standing, like slowly pinning me.
Oh, it was a year ago. You've grown 6 inches since then. So mate, we're going to swap over into a live very, very shortly and go over the card and get your thoughts on what some of what you think some of the other matchups are going to look like on the night. So for those that are interested, if you can jump over and watch that, because we'll have that up and live probably before this video even appears on the internet, I would say.
That's true, yeah, we'll be.
Yeah. So, but certainly come back and watch that. And but I want to thank you very much, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure having you in. You did admirably well with your interview with the mainstream media just a little bit earlier, mate. And not only are you a fantastic champion, but you're a great ambassador of the sport. So thanks so much for coming in and joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Hamza the Hammer Hodzic.